to the US mainland. So we have to make sure that Putin will not get his way, that Ukraine will prevail in this fight, and today that will be on the agenda. Secondly, very important, defense industrial production. We need simply to do more. We have to ramp up the defense industry, and luckily NATO and the EU are working closely together to make sure that the defense industrial base, transatlantic, will be strengthened over the coming months. We really have to do this, to replenish our stockpiles, to make sure that we stand ready to oppose any adversary. And third, money. Clearly the 2%, great that we have achieved it on the European side of NATO overall, but it is not enough. It is clearly not enough, so we have to also make sure that we spend more on defense to make sure that the deterrence in defense is not only there today, but also for the longer term, to make sure that we can defend ourselves. So thank you. I'm willing to take a few questions, and then I'm up to meet the defense ministers.
Secretary General, threats to react with nuclear weapons. Should Western long-range weapons be used on targets in Russia? How worried are you about?
Well, I always took the view that it is wise not to talk too much about what we are doing, yes or no. Clearly, NATO has said before, when allies deliver systems, weapon systems to Ukraine, it is best not to put restrictions on them. That's a general view, but then it's up to the individual ally to decide what they do. What we see at the moment is the escalation of the war because of Russia getting North Korea involved. We have seen last weekend what happened with the attack on Ukraine, which was massive by skill. But I'm not going into whether individual allies should yes or no, or what they are doing. Is up to them to communicate if they want to do so. I would generally say let's not communicate too much and not make our adversaries more wise than is necessary.
Have you seen any sign that the presence of North Korean troops has changed China's calculus in whether to help Russia, that this is also concerning Beijing?
Well, you know, the horrifying fact is this, that 4 countries are working together. And what is exactly the sort of psychology between them, I cannot always assess. But they are working together. China is helping Russia by sanctions circumvention, by delivering dual-use goods. North Korea with troops and massive weapon supplies into Russia. And again, Russia is paying for this. The fact that they have to pay with missile technology is really a threat to all of us, because North Korea will become more effective in its deterrence. And then Iran. I mean, Russia's paying for Iran's help with money. And that money is helping Iran's proxies in the Middle East, is making it easier for Iran to do what it is doing in the Middle East, but also beyond. So there is a global impact, and it means that the transatlantic, the Euro-Atlantic theater, but also the Indo-Pacific, we get more and more connected. Because what is happening here is now posing a threat to Japan, South Korea and the US.
And how about Georgia? What are the chances for the country which has a bad trajectory, the sliding of democracy and NATO integration?
Of course, we encourage Georgia to go back on its path towards more integration into the Euro-Atlantic, including their ambitions to get close to the EU. But let's for today not talk too much about Georgia. There's so many other things now, mind you.
Iran helped with Russia. So you said also Iran, they have to pay. Are you today going to prepare new sanction against Iran?
Well, that's not on the agenda today, but we will today, no doubt, discuss the fact that what Russia is doing, this full onslaught against Ukraine, unprovoked, again, unprovoked, now 1,000 days, and we have seen last weekend this massive airstrike against Ukraine hitting the power grid. It's not just Russia. It's North Korea being involved, it's China being involved, it's Iran being involved. And the fact that they're all working together, we have to realize, and it means that we have to strategize what that means, and clearly this is something what the defense ministers will no doubt discuss today. Last question.
Last question. 1,000 days after the war in Ukraine, in your duty as a former Prime Minister of Netherlands and now as a Secretary General of NATO, do you believe that this war is over, or there is still threat to other countries, especially the neighbors whose member state of NATO and European Union.
Well, again, in 2014, the Russians took Crimea. Then the war started. The full Russian onslaught started at the end of February 2022. Indeed, 1,000 days ago. I cannot be more proud of what Ukraine has done to prevail, being 4 times smaller, having an economy which is only 25% of the size of the Russian economy, having been able to prevail up to this moment, because we in the West and others around the globe were willing to provide what was necessary to Ukraine to prevail and to prevent Putin to win. And why is this so crucial? That Putin will not get his way, because you will have an emboldened Russia on our border, which will have gained in landmass, have gained in military capability. And I'm absolutely convinced it will not stop there. It is then posing a direct threat to all of us in the West. And that is why we have to make sure, because our values are at stake, but also our collective safety is at stake, that we have to make sure that Ukraine prevails. And that is number 1 on the agenda today, particularly now, with North Korea getting involved, with this massive airstrike last weekend, and the 1,000 days today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Het Europees Parlement toe. Hij werkt toch aan een diplomatieke oplossing. Ziet u een rol voor de NAVO bij een